The Remington shotgun trembled in her grip as boots thudded on the creaky front porch. Two shadows, maybe more. Sarah backed against the wall of the old farmhouse, Mary's faded wedding gown still draped over the armchair like a silent sentinel. "We know you're alone in there, sweetheart," a rough voice called out. 10 years. 10 long years Jack Harlan had spent in solitude on this Texas panhandle spread, loyal to the memory of his late wife until her younger sister showed up 3 weeks ago, with eyes like storm clouds and a past that could unravel everything. Now those eyes peered through the sights of a gun, waiting for the man who'd vowed never to open his heart again. The door buckled under a heavy kick. Would he make it back in time? And what would their tangled passion cost him? It was 1892, and the Texas plains were a land for the tough, where a man's value was tallied in acres of wheat and the strength of his fences. Jack Harlan fit right in 6'2" of sun-baked muscle and quiet sorrow, tending 200 acres of golden fields that rolled out to the flat horizon. His hands bore the marks of it all: plow scars, wire cuts, the rough edges of a life rebuilt from ruins. Mary had passed a decade earlier, taken by a brutal fever that swept through the county like wildfire. He'd kept her belongings untouched, the green dress in the closet, her silver comb on a nightstand, still tangled with auburn strands. The bed they once shared now lay empty under patchwork quilts that carried the faint scent of wildflowers and lost dreams. Neighbors' wives dropped off casseroles. Their daughters lingered at the fence line with hopeful smiles. But Jack Harlan had loved once, deeply, and when that love vanished in a sweltering August heat wave, a piece of him went with it. Letters arrived every few months from Kansas City, Mary's kin checking on poor Jack, though they'd never warmed to their daughter hitching up with a dirt farmer. He tossed them in the fire unread, until the one that landed in September. "Rebecca's in a bind. She bolted from a match with Theodore Grant, the railroad baron's son. She's fixated on the serenity Mary described in her letters about Texas. If she turns up, don't send her packing. She's got no other refuge." Signed, Eleanor Thompson. He'd burned that one, too, but the words lingered as October winds kicked up dust devils across the fields. The evening she arrived, he was fixing a broken gate under the fading sun when he rode back to the house. Lamplight flickered in the windows, the first after-dark glow his place had seen in years. She was at Mary's oak table, leafing through Mary's old journal. Jack froze in the doorway, his pulse racing. Same auburn hair, same graceful fingers, same thoughtful tilt of the head. But where Mary had been steady like a calm river, this woman was a prairie storm. "You're Rebecca?" "Sarah," she corrected, looking up. Her eyes were gray, not Mary's hazel different, yet stirring something familiar. "Sorry for barging in." The door was open. "Locks ain't much use out here," he muttered, stepping inside, suddenly aware of his dusty boots and the whiskey on his breath. "Your folks are fretting." "My folks traded me for a stake in the railroads," she shot back, her tone sharper than Mary's ever was. "Theodore Grant promised them shares for a fresh bride. I'd rather bake in Texas dust than choke in Kansas City parlors." Dust started swirling outside, the kind that could turn into a full-blown sandstorm. "Blow's coming," Jack said. "I know." She shut the journal. Mary wrote about Texas storms, how they could bury you if you weren't watchful, or free you if you faced them head-on. What had Mary shared with her sister about this life about him? And why did gazing at Sarah Thompson feel like suffocating and gasping for air all at once? She was hopeless in the kitchen, scorched the biscuits, over-peppered the stew, nearly torched the place, fiddling with Mary's cast-iron stove. "City gal," Jack grumbled, mopping up her mess. "I can figure it out," Sarah insisted, framed in the doorway in one of Mary's aprons over her city frock. The sight twisted a knife in his gut. Mary did. Mary was different. How? He couldn't say that Mary had been a gentle breeze to Sarah's gale, that Mary slipped into farm life like she'd always belonged, while Sarah battled every bit. The loneliness, the toil, the vast quiet. But she was tenacious. When he caught her at dawn in the barn, attempting to harness the mule with hands smooth as satin, something cracked inside him. Like this, he said, stepping behind her, his rough palms over hers on the leather straps. Firm, but careful. She smelled of lavender and grit. When she leaned into him for a split second, Jack's breath hitched. There, she murmured as the buckle clicked. Got it. You did. He pulled away fast, before regret turned to ruin. The sandstorm slammed in days later, winds howling like banshees, dust blotting out the sky beyond the walls. Jack found his fields half-ruined, crops battered and scattered in the red haze. Gotta salvage what I can, he told Sarah, yanking on his coat. In this, you'll choke out there. It's all I've got left. But she was already grabbing Mary's wool shawl, jaw set in that stubborn way he'd come to recognize. Then I'm with you. No chance. You need backup, and I need to earn my keep here. Did she belong? And what toll would proving it take? They rescued what wheat they could from a gully a mile out, half buried but salvageable. By the time they staggered home, Sarah's face was caked in grit, her fingers numb. Jack stoked the fire, brewed tea spiked with bourbon. She huddled in blankets, shivering. Thanks, he said softly. For what? Not quitting. She met his eyes over the steaming mug, and for an instant he saw not Mary's echo, but Sarah Thompson fierce, unyielding, radiant on her own terms. Is this what Mary felt? This sense of place? Mary didn't have to scrap for it. Maybe that's why I want to stay to claim what she never fought for. The words lingered like dust in the air. Jack rose abruptly, seeking refuge in space. But that night, in his empty bed, he strained to hear her breath from the next room, wondering what it might be like to end the solitude. When her sobs filtered through quiet, Hidden fought every urge to comfort her. Some fights, he convinced himself, were solo. The intruders hit on a Wednesday, while Jack was in town fetching supplies. Sarah spotted them from the window, three riders with the swagger of outlaws she'd glimpsed in Kansas City saloons. Mary's journal warned of them, drifters targeting remote farms, knowing lawmen were miles off. She grabbed the Remington from above the hearth, hands quaking as she loaded shells. She'd never pulled a trigger. "Anyone home?" the leader barked, his voice oily as snake venom. Sarah stayed mute, hoping they'd ride on. They didn't. The door shattered with a boot heel, shards flying. The big one sauntered in, doffing his hat mockingly. "Well, ain't this cozy? Pretty thing all by her lonesome." His gaze crawled over her like filth. "Where's your fella, darlin'?" "Away," she said, voice steadier than her nerves. "Won't return till dark." Plenty of time to get friendly. The second appeared, wiry with a jagged scar across his cheek, leering. The third hung back, eyes darting. The shotgun weighed like lead. "Back off. Or what? You're gonna blast us, little miss?" the leader sneered. She leveled it like she'd seen Jack do. "I know plenty." He lunged. The blast roared, buckshot splintering the wall by his ear. They froze. "Next one's in your gut," she warned, pumping the action. "For shells left." The leader's eyes narrowed, weighing her shake. "You got spunk, but can you hit us all?" They fanned out. Sarah retreated to the table, swinging the barrel. "Easy now," Scarface cooed. "We just want to play nice." "Real nice," the leader echoed, hand inching toward his holster. She fired again, grazing his arm. He yelped, blood blooming. 3 shells. Scarface drew his revolver. "You hit Clem, bitch." Her aim wavered in the adrenaline rush. As he sighted her, Sarah knew death stared back. The door exploded open. Jack Harlan burst in like a thunderclap, his peacemaker drawn, his eyes scanned. Sarah cornered the bleeding thug, Scarface, aiming at her chest. Drop it. Cold. Final tone of a man who'd faced down worse. Scarface paused. Jack's shot cracked, shattering the outlaw's hand. He howled, collapsing. You three out, or I finish it. They scrambled, leaving blood and curses. Hooves thundered away. Sarah stood rigid, shotgun gripped tight. Sarah! Jack's voice softened, approaching slowly. It's over. She met his gaze, seeing his terror masked. I thought. Her knees buckled. He caught her, pulling her close. His heart pounded against hers. You held your ground, he whispered. Mary's gun in a Thompson woman's hands, those fools didn't stand a prayer. She looked up, inches away. The lines on his face, the gray in his beard close enough for sparks to ignite. This was it, the brink, and they both felt it. Jack! Her whisper shattered his walls. 10 years of isolation, of honoring grief, of swearing love was a closed chapter. But Sarah Thompson was real, fierce, craving him as he craved her. He kissed her soft at first, a tentative spark, then fierce, a decade's hunger unleashed. She tasted of bourbon and bravery, her hands clutching his shirt, drawing him nearer. Jack forgot all but the rush of connection. He pressed her against the table, lips trailing her throat. She gasped, the sound igniting him like dynamite. Sarah! His fingers fumbled her buttons. She tugged his belt. This was insanity. This was disloyalty. This was alive. Her dress fell, baring pale skin in the lamplight. She stood vulnerable yet bold, desiring him fully. Jack's hands trembled, reaching for her, then halted. On the mantel, Mary's tintype stared with serene eyes. His wife, his true love, who died in this room as he held her, vowing eternal fidelity. Guilt slammed like a fist. I can't. He retreated, breath ragged. Lord, I can't. Sarah's expression shattered. Jack, this is Mary's home. Mary's everything. He couldn't voice husband, it would destroy them. She redressed, hands unsteady. I get it. I should have known. I can't rival a memory. She brushed past to the bedroom, back ramrod straight amid tears. The door shut softly, echoing like doom. Jack stood amid the chaos, his resolve in tatters. Outside, winds howled. Inside, silence festered. Mary's image smiled unchanging. Some vows were ironclad, but what when they clashed with the living? When honor warred with need? When a ghost barred 2 beating hearts? By dawn, Sarah had vanished. Her note, brief, poignant. Thanks for showing me what Mary cherished here. Sorry, I couldn't measure up. The train departs Amarillo at midday. S. Jack reread it in the cold kitchen. Fire ashes, air hollow without her. He ought to let her fade, thank fate for averting sin. Instead, he saddled his sturdiest horse. The trail to Amarillo spanned 45 miles of dusty flats. Jack rode hard, hoofs pounding parched earth. The train's distant wail grew nearer. Too late? But he pushed on because chances like this were rare, because a decade's mourning revealed the pain of unspoken truths. After all, Sarah Thompson merited love unshadowed by the past. The station emerged through heat haze, wooden platforms by iron tracks linking Texas to the world. The eastbound huffed steam, boarding for Kansas City, Chicago beyond. He spotted her on the platform, small in her coat, bag clutched tight, face set like facing execution. Jack tied his horse, boots echoing as he approached. She turned, emotions flashing. Shock, hurt, resolve, perhaps affection. You came. The whistle shrieked. All aboard. A conductor bellowed stops. Kansas City, St. Louis, civilized worlds of tycoons and arranged fates. Wheels groaned into motion. Jack extended his hand. "Come back, Sarah." She eyed the departing cars, his palm, the endless Texas sky promising hardship but honest love, the kind that rooted deep like prairie grass. She grasped it. The train chugged away, hauling others' destinies. Jack and Sarah stood linked, watching it vanish. She smiled not Mary's soft grin, but her own fierce one. "Took me forever to see I wasn't fleeing from. I was racing to this." They walked to his horse, two souls against the vast plain. Above, the Texas heavens sprawled endlessly, brimming with dust and dreams. Ahead lay a life rebuilt, together free of ghosts, full of fire. What do you think about Jack's choice to move on from his grief? Was it a betrayal of Mary's memory, or a necessary step toward healing? Share your opinions in the comments below. Take a stand, and let me know your perspective on love, loyalty, and second chances. I'd love to hear from you.